and he started shooting at us. And I got down, and that was like my first contact. And I was like, oh, I'm trying to look, and he comes to me and he says, listen, I'm going to pull right. You need to check the left. And he just goes. He doesn't even say, are you ready? He just leaves. And I hear the other one are shooting. We got behind this big-ass steel beam, and I just stood and I took out my gun, and the dude just popped up 1 time, 2 times, and I just ripped 2 off. Boom, boom, and like he kind of fell behind his cover. And I could see the female soldier just running up, putting 2 in him in the ground, and just said, keep going.
Welcome to Combat Story. I'm Ryan Fugit, and I served warzone tours as an Army attack helicopter pilot and CIA officer over a 15-year career. I'm fascinated by the experiences of the elite in combat. On this show, I interview some of the best to understand what combat felt like on their front lines. This is Combat Story. As regular listeners know, we love stories of commitment, sacrifice, and perseverance. I choose guests carefully to find these traits, and I take a similar approach to choosing sponsors for the show, which is why I'm proud to share that this episode is sponsored by LoanSteady, a company that fights to get you the best position on your home loan. I've known Mo and Hayden, the 2 owners of LoanSteady, for over 10 years, and watched them grow the company from a 4-person group crammed in a small office into a multi-million-dollar company doing business in dozens of states through hustle, hard work, and sacrifice. I also know they do right by veterans, offering some of the best margins on VA loans you can find. I've personally referred 2 family members to LoanSteady in the past year, and both had great experiences, and I plan on using LoanSteady in the coming year myself. If you're in the market for a home loan, interested in refinancing, or taking cash out for a project or home improvement, particularly while rates are at near historic lows, check them out for a special offer for our listeners. Before the end of 2021, go to www.loansteady.com/combatstory and apply, and LoanSteady will waive all lender fees like those for processing and underwriting. Mo and Hayden will take care of you and keep you safe. It's LoanSteady LLC, NMLS number 1701910, an equal housing lender. Today we hear the combat story of Firat Batman, a Swedish citizen from Kurdish roots who spent years with the YPG and Syrian Democratic Forces fighting one of the most vile terrorist groups of our time, ISIS. I found Firat when his friend, another Swede-turned-freedom fighter named Mike, reached out. Mike's introductory email sums up Firat perfectly. I'm writing you for a friend of mine who would never reach out, but his story is amazing. He spent years fighting ISIS in Syria with the YPG, but he's not a war tourist. He left Sweden after ISIS murdered his cousins and uncle in Syria. Firat fought alongside coalition forces on the front lines, liberating cities from ISIS control. He did this, however, with very few resources, training, ammunition, funding, and support. What he witnessed in terms of ISIS brutality is horrific and has left its scars. He has an amazing story that will inspire anyone who wonders how you can change your life and do something about the evil things in this world. I hope you enjoy this combat story as much as I did, and if you did, I hope you'll subscribe so we can keep producing these. This is the first in a 2-part interview with Firat to make sure that we spend sufficient time on his multiple deployments into Syria. Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer that this episode has some particularly difficult parts that discuss some of the horrors of what ISIS did on the battlefield. It's a phenomenal interview, but just be prepared to hear what it was really like clearing villages that had been occupied and ravaged by ISIS. Firat, thanks for taking the time to share your story with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Man, I've been digging into some of the documentary footage you sent me. I've been looking at yours and some of your buddies' Instagram feeds. It's really, really cool, some of the fighting and experiences you've had, as dark as they are, and I know we'll get into that. But I just wanted to say how excited I am for this whole discussion. 2 parts digging into something that very few Americans really get to hear about. So thanks for that. And I feel like the appropriate place to start with you is family. I know it touches on so much, and I'm not just talking about the brothers in arms who you ended up fighting with, brothers and sisters, quite honestly, but this very interesting background you have living in Sweden with the Kurdish background, family in Syria. I'd love to just hear more about what family means to you and what that was like for you growing up.
First of all, I want to say thank you again for having me. I've been excited, actually really excited, and I've been like listening to all the episodes, and I kind of know everyone that's been on your pod, so I'm kind of like a little bit, stressed but nervous, but it's gonna go well, and I'm excited. And family, I'm Kurdish. I'm 35 years old. I was actually born in Lebanon in 1985, 86. And my mom and dad they lived in Syria. But, during their time, there was a lot of like stress with the regime and stuff. So they moved to Lebanon, where me and my siblings were born. But the civil war started as well in Lebanon when I was like 2 years old or something. So we ended up going to Sweden, I think 1988 or something. And I kind of like grew up there, never knew anything about Kurdistan or anything, All I knew was the language, more or less, because we spoke it at home. But my three siblings and I, we were regular kids, liked sports. I was playing a lot of soccer, basketball. I spent like maybe 20 years dancing breakdance. Yeah, I was very like a creative. I love that stuff, I love to like skateboard and breakdance and do graffiti, and it was just how we grew up. There was like no phones and no like iPads or stuff like that, and PlayStations were kind of like too expensive for us. So for me, family is who I am, and me growing up in Sweden, not being able to travel back to even see the family I have, was kind of weird for me, because everybody else was seeing their families. So we were actually maybe the only of our like relatives and families in Sweden by that time. So we kind of like didn't have anyone. Everybody was spread out like in Turkey, Syria, Germany. And by the time we came, when we left our houses in Lebanon, it was actually during an ongoing fight or something between like some villages, because I remember we were actually just evacuated from where we lived. And I remember it clearly, where we actually just took what we had. I remember my mom, I don't know how I remember this, like by 2.5 years, but that was like my last memory of Lebanon. It was that exact moment. So we didn't have any papers. So when we came to Sweden, I couldn't even travel for like 20 years, because they couldn't give me any papers anywhere. So I was almost like an illegal immigrant. So for me, I couldn't even, see any of my other families. So I grew up with them just in my heart, in my mind all the time, and what it meant. So our family grew so much stronger, we are really close, me and my family.
The family in Syria, Firat, what how did you guys end up communicating with them when you were younger? Like, were your parents just on the phone with them all the time, or was it too expensive? Like, how did that happen?
They would very rarely call us. We would usually go to these, there's like these Middle Eastern stores in Sweden where they like sell these international cards with credits on them, for like $10 or something, and you can avoid getting a bill at home. So we would actually use those to call them from our landline, I think, the telephone, because we didn't have a cell phone back then. But even when cell phones were out, it was too expensive, so we just kept using those cards. But it was very short, and usually I couldn't even understand a lot of what they were saying, because my Kurdish was so bad. And, so it was kind of like a minute there, a minute here, once every 3 months or something. So it was just the voice and the thoughts of the family in Syria, you know. So
Yeah.
it was kind of hard not having cousins and stuff, you know, around me.
And if we're just being real, I got to imagine it's tough growing up as an immigrant, the way you described it, like not a lot of money, no family in Sweden, let alone like, I don't even know if you spoke the language.
I
How
mean,
hard was that?
No, no. I mean, my dad, just jumped straight into work. Like, couldn't found like a man that spoke Arabic, because my dad speaks like Arabic, Kurdish, Turkish, you know. So he straight up found like this guy that has like a vegetable stand, and he just straight up worked there, got some bread, got vegetables and some money. He straight up, and yes, I mean, for me, it was weird because growing up and being Kurdish among Syrians, Turks, and Persians, and all of the neighbors around there, you know, like I was ended up with being bullied all the time, because you know they were like, "Hey, you don't have a country, you don't have this," and above that, I didn't even have the proper papers in Sweden, so I was like, you know. So I mean, I had identity crisis at a very young age.
Yeah. And
All I knew was the family I had and what they taught me. I couldn't read Kurdish. I couldn't read Arabic. My Kurdish was like mixed with everything except Kurdish. So it was kind of like, you know.
yeah, God. And so you've been around, I mean, effectively, you and your family from the time you're born have been around conflict almost. And then you have a break to some degree in Sweden, but that doesn't mean your family in Syria necessarily had a break, right? So as you're kind of growing up living in Sweden, what is the impression of what's going on in Syria at that time? How does it impact you, if at all?
I mean, the thing that impacted us the most before, you know, if we like just put away armed conflict, was that we maybe sometimes didn't have money to send to them either, you know, because people back home, they don't really understand sometimes that you can actually be fucking poor out here too. And just because you're in Sweden doesn't mean I always have money, you know. So, I mean, me growing up, hearing those conversations sometimes when we couldn't help and stuff like that, that was hard. But when it comes to conflict, it was more or less the regime that was doing a bunch of shit towards them, and they were not giving them ID cards. They were like forcing them to say like, no, you have to say you're an Arab. And at that time, I remember dictator Assad was going through this Arabicization, what do you call it? He was moving Kurds out of the villages, and he was putting his people inside these villages because he didn't want them to be like too much Kurds. And on top of that, my dad has been like politically in the Kurdish struggle involved way before I was young. And one of the reasons he left Syria with my mom and stuff was because he was actually in the jail there. One of the Palestinian, they call it the prison. I think it's not a prison. It's I don't know, detention. What do you call it?
Yeah,
it's not a big prison. Yeah, exactly. It's like a camp, but it's like infamous for its how rough it is and stuff like that. Rough it is. And my dad spent some time there. So I mean, he's a very stubborn man. He didn't give up. So wherever we were, he was always politically or involved in the Kurdish struggle. So I actually grew up with that as well. So I always grew up with, you know, the fighters, you know, the mountain fighters, the guerrillas, you know, the Peshmerga. I always grew up with these stories from different Kurds. And there were other Kurds where their fathers had been like Peshmergas, and I was like sitting there listening to this warrior. I was like, wow, you know. So I've been around that all the time. So, but never actually had I by then even been there. So, but it was always in my head.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was going to ask, like, if we went back to you when you were 12 or 13 years old, would you have envisioned yourself fighting for 3 to 4 years in your future like that on the front lines? Was that even a consideration for you?
course not. I don't think so. Maybe if I sat in front of my dad and his friends, I'd be like, I'm gonna be a fighter, just for the pumps, But no, never.
So, what was the moment for you that drew you in?
I mean, first, it didn't begin. The Kurdish conflict, I always was in it because way before this even started, we Kurds already had a conflict in Iran and Turkey, and it's like the fighting has always been there. But for me, it started more when it was just the people against Assad. First, way before the SDF or the YPG was created, and we were all just our heads. We couldn't concentrate on anything because this was everywhere, and this was the high times of Facebook and everything, and everybody was just sharing it. And all my friends were from Middle East. They were either Kurdish or Syrian. Everybody had a view, and everybody's sharing or feed was different, and it literally split everybody up, even out here. That's the thing people don't realize. It created separation, even in Sweden. People like there's certain neighborhoods I can't even go to. I'm not even bullshitting. I can't even put my foot in there because there's a bunch of returning jihadis there. I can't even go there. So that shit started way back. Some were even way 2004, people from Sweden were going and joining Al-Qaeda, So it started for us when we saw what the regime did. And then I got interested, but I wasn't I'm going to go fight the regime. I was just like, this is fucking terrible. This is the worst thing I've seen in my life. And when our family starts calling and saying that Al-Qaeda and Nusra have started taking areas in the totally different direction, I've seen my dad started calling them every single day. And then ISIS came along in Iraq, and all that separation happened in Syria. They infiltrated the FSA and they did all that stuff. And, one misconception people have is that all FSA is bad. That's not true. I mean, the first original FSA were actually just the people, and we still have some of those factions in Syrian SDF as well. So after that happened, and ISIS did their thing and they started coming towards Kobane, then, I mean, my life changed. I couldn't do anything. I had everything. Not everything. I mean, I had my passport. I had fucking, my job. I had an apartment. I was sitting, I had my dog. I had whatever I wanted, I had a son, I had a son as well by that time. I got one son that was born 2008, so this was 2014. And when they came to Kobane and all these videos started coming of ISIS and Sinjar and all that stuff, I mean, I can still hear it, just the video, because that women, all of them, they speak exactly the same language as I do. And I have never in my life heard people that speak like me. I have never seen that, the suffering of anybody sounding just like my mom and my sister, and my aunt and everything.
Yeah. And
then my aunt calls and says that, my grandpa, calls and says that my uncle have gone and just joined the fight. And, not knowing what actually that means, I was, wow, my uncle, he's YPG, blah, blah, blah. He didn't even take a month. He was dead. He was gone and he was dead. Nobody, nothing. His whole unit got just ambushed in some small ass compound outside of Tel Hamis, 2014. And I remember, sitting there between when I heard that he left and died this month. I didn't even go to work. I literally went and like told them, "Oh, I'm sick. I'm depressed." So I took like 2 weeks off, and I was like deep inside of this. Like every video, every Kurdish Twitter account, Facebook, Instagram, I was all over that. I was so deep in it. I was locating like ISIS fighters. I was going into their telegrams. I was seeing them openly recruiting people in Swedish, and I was like, wow. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like realizing, shit, I haven't gone out for like 2 days, and I was sitting here for like 40 hours or 35 hours or something straight. I've just been sitting eating like microwave pizzas and just doing this. And it just kept going and going and going. But when they told me about my uncle, I remember it clearly. I was sitting by my PC, and I was like just gonna play some game, Arma or something, with my friends. And I was talking to them through Discord, and I was like, "Yo, wait, my mom is calling me. It's important. She usually don't call me at this time of hour." So I answer her, and she's like, straight up just tells me, "Oh, Dita, your uncle is gone. He's missing." I was like, "What?" Okay, but she didn't sound joyful when she said it, and I could hear on her voice that she was trying to hold it together while she's telling me her brother is missing in the hands of fucking ISIS. And we have seen the videos, it wasn't like he disappeared and got MIA while nobody had seen an ISIS video. We had seen plenty and plenty. And before that, we had seen plenty regime bullshit too.
Okay. So basically, your brother knows what's going on, but I'm curious if your mom could sense it. Like, I feel like mothers know everything. Could she tell something was going on?
I think in a way she did, but not to that extent, Not she like I don't think she would ever imagine her little kid, a little breakdancer playing soccer, can barely speak Kurdish, that is now a fucking grown man is just gonna leave when he has a kid and everything, a job, apartment, That doesn't happen in Kurdish families. People don't just do that. Oh well, okay, they do it now apparently, but it's like I remember my brother. He was looking at me and he's like, "If you don't tell mom, I will." So I was like, "Listen, I'm just going to Peshmerga. We're gonna volunteer. We're gonna just help, bro." I was like, "What do you want me to do? I can finally do it, and I want to do it." I mean, the ticket, the direct flight from Sweden to Iraq was like $150. A ticket to Germany was like 300. So for me, it was just I didn't understand it. I was like, this is so weird, It was just too easy once I actually found a contact, So I didn't sleep that night, nothing, and I wanted my brother to drive me, and he fucking didn't. My mom shows up. Bro, my mom shows up like 7 a.m. She's gonna drive me to the airport, and I stood there, just looked at her because I've been hiding another bag from her, and she's like, just looked at me like, "What is this? Where are you going? Why so many bags?" And and I was like, "No, it's my friend's bag. He's meeting me at the airport. He forgot." And that ride was like one of the worst rides in my life. I'm sitting listening to my mom telling me, "Oh, you're gonna have a good time, relax at the beach, and you can do that, And I'm just like, wow, I'm like the biggest piece of shit ever. There's no worse than me right now. That was how I felt, and all the way to where I was just gonna check in. She keeps following me, and she keeps following me all the way, and it just made it so much harder every step. I thought, okay, she's gonna leave now. Oh, okay, I'm good, mom. No, I'm gonna come with you. What are you talking about? Because even if she didn't know, she never seen me in the airport before. So for her, it was still like this thing in her head. "Yo, my son is going somewhere." She was still worried, even if it was Spain or not. So, hugged my mom. And I remember walking up, I turned around, she was still looking in and stuff. And when I got into the security and they checked everything everything just dropped. Like the first initial like anxieties like you get from this, not stress. For me, anxiety and stress is different. I had anxieties like severe. I couldn't even breathe. I didn't know what to do because I didn't know if whatever I had in my backpack was illegal. I had no clue what to expect. And me being born in Lebanon makes people a little bit, and especially in Iraq, they were like that. When I came there, they were like looking at my passport, and but nothing happened. I had this layover in Bulgaria first, and I dropped over there, and I had like this 8-hour layover, and I called an old breakdance friend of mine. I'll never forget it, and I told him, I said, "Yo, I need to tell you something." Because we had like this crew, breakdance crew. We were competing together, and we knew each other like 10 years, 15 years. So I felt like I had to tell some of them because none of them have contact with anyone in my family. So they would never know unless I would call them and tell them. And I had by then closed all my social media. I didn't had any Instagram by then. I just had like a personal Facebook. I called him. I said, "Bro, I'm gonna do like one last breakdance solo here. I'm gonna film it. And I'm gonna send it to you. So if something happens to me, you gotta show it to the boys. You gotta say, yeah,
No
okay,
way.
this idiot sent me this. Yeah." So I actually filmed myself at the airport, just doing like this random solo, breakdance solo, and I sent it to him, and he was the first guy that said, "I'm not surprised. You're such an idiot. I'm not surprised. Like, I always knew you would do something like this." He was the first guy that said that to me. Everybody else, whoever of these two people that knew other than him, just were heartbroken. They were terrified, you know. And then I remember Bulgaria, he was from to Turkey. Oh my God. Oof, that was the longest 5 hours I had in my life. Yeah, I was so stressed. Even though they didn't know anything about me, I didn't have any social media to share or anything. Nobody cared about me, but I felt violated
Yeah.
being there. It was just so weird because I grew up, like, I'm gonna be honest. I've had maybe out of 1,000 friends, like before the war, maybe one of them was a Turkish guy, and he wasn't even 100% Turkish. The rest I didn't have, none. Like for real, I grew up with them doing what they did. My uncles that lived in the city of Batman way before my dad and them. They all got killed by the Turkish army for refusing to be in conscription because they would usually take conscripts that were Kurds and send them to Kurdish villages. So my uncles were like, "No, we don't want to do it," and stuff. So they killed them. So I grew up with just that. Of course, I didn't have anyone that was maybe, let's say, biased. That was like, no, there's two different sides. No, I literally grew up with the 10 Turkish kids on the other side were literally calling me PKK. They were bullying me for not having a country. I was literally fighting every 2 days. I was fighting people. I still have people's teeth on my knuckles because I was fighting so much. I promise you, right? Like I got bullied a lot just for being Kurdish. So I mean, I was scared when I was there because I was taking a flight to Kurdish regional, to Slemani, and the chick that stamps your passport, before you're gonna go into the gate, she knows it's Kurdistan. We were literally just 5 people in that line. We were 5 people boarding that flight from Turkey, and I swear she stamped my passport 2 times. she just pa pa and just gave it to me and said go. And I
Wow.
was like, just went
Thank you.
in. Yeah. I mean, from there everything was different.
I
Everything
wanted to ask
was
something just real
changed.
quick. On your
Yeah.
Instagram feed, I saw this picture, and it probably comes later on, but it was really moving. It's a picture of you writing a letter, and I think it's to your mom in case you don't come back. And the more you've talked about your mom
Yeah.
and how important she
Yeah.
was, I don't know if you would have written that on your first go round because you didn't realize you were going to end up like getting shot in the chest,
No.
RPGs all
No.
over the place
This
in that
was.
fighting.
That letter was my third tour,
Yeah. After you knew, like,
and
you really knew.
I was forced. Yeah, I was forced to write it because we had lost so many friends,
Yeah.
and I was actually advised from one of my dear friends. There was an ex-marine, Havala Zad is his name in YPG. He kept on to do it. He's like, you keep. But they wanted us to do a video, and I refused. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do some YPG video standing there in like your revolution and stuff. No, I'm here for my family. Leave me alone. And
Yeah.
I was like, I was sitting there. I was seeing the guys in my unit writing. Levi, God bless his soul, he died. He was writing one. Everybody else were writing, and I just could see them. And I didn't do it that time. That was the first time they wrote it. I didn't do it because I was like, no, I'm going home. I'm not gonna write it. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Damn.
it's hard, man. It's hard starting a letter with like, in case you read this, I'm fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be cold to writing something like that to your mom.
Yeah, man.
Like me thinking of it makes me feel like weird because
I know, dude. That's why I think
do.
anybody who's gone to combat knows what that feeling's like. And it sounds like that first time around, that breakdancing video was that letter almost. Like, if I don't make it, share this thing out with our boys.
Yeah. And I had
Damn.
written small notes to my brother, my sister, my little sister, and I hadn't write anything about it. I just randomly put them on different places, and I wrote, I love you, you little piece of shit, to my little sister, because me and her were really close. It was always me and her, and to my big sister and my big brother, I wrote these little things to them, and I think my brother definitely knew, and it's somehow a weird thought of you cutting your emotional attachments, obligations off. That's like that. What that letter is. It's like, okay, I love you, but if I die, remember I love you.
Yep.
But whatever happens after I wrote this letter, it's nothing. I can't think of our love. So I was always first off, no, I'm not. I didn't come here to blow myself up. I'm gonna go back to my family. I have my other relatives here. No, I'm here to fight and come back and fight till we all make it. But as you said, it's not that easy once you have dying kids, and you have to. But I saw that my first time too. But I'm stubborn, man. I love my mom too much.
I wrote a similar. I wrote an email like the day that I almost died in Afghanistan. Like one of the days that I came closest to death, I came back to my my little area, and I wrote an email to my two best friends. I didn't say anything to my wife, not my parents. I was like, hey, it was almost it. I might not make it. Like, take care of my kid, and that was it. Like detachment, complete emotional detachment after that. So. Look, Firat, so you're in Turkey. Like, I've gone through border checkpoints with immense fear, but never like having to be a Kurd in Turkey, coming from Europe, going to Sule. Like, that just sounds crazy. So you get out of that, you land in Iraq. How the hell do you get to the front?
I mean, I gotta tell you, at this moment, it's very special for me. Okay, it's like. Just imagine, think of everything I said, not, young age, identity, never know Kurdistan. The first thing I freaking see, everything goes smooth in the checkpoint. Nobody says anything. And I says, I'm Kurdish, first time, and they were super happy. Oh, welcome home, but why does it say Lebanon on your passport? They straight up told me, you're an Arab? I was like, no, I'm Kurdish. And they're like, but you're born in Lebanon. And I looked at him and I started speaking Kurdish, and you know, and then he's like, okay, you can go in. But everything went smooth, and the first thing I come out, I was there around like 2 a.m., 2 a.m. at night, and I remember it was hot as hell, and I saw the biggest Kurdish flag I've seen in my life on a flag post hanging outside the airport. I mean, I just dropped my bag and I just sat down a little bit, and I smoked. Before I even called the guy, I sat down, smoked a cigarette, I took pictures. I tried to hook up to the Wi-Fi to tell my two friends that knew that I was there, but I couldn't. And the funny thing is, when I got there, one of these cab drivers saw me being a little bit confused, walking around, you know, not wanting to talk to anyone. This dude knew exactly where I was going. He came up to me and he just straight up told me, "You gonna go YPG?" I was like, trying to look away. I mean, it was so weird. And he's like, you speak Kurdish? No, I was like, no, Kaka, I'm Kurdish. Come here from my country, you know. And then he starts saying the contact's name, and that's when I like get super sketchy. I get really scared because he says a contact's name. I don't know this guy. Like, how the fuck you know this guy's name? Because every 2 days, foreigners would come in, and these two cab drivers were specifically told to aim at these Westerners because they were working with the dude, you know. So
Yeah,
it would just make it easier for us. Yeah, but they would still get paid, take money from us. It was not like they were doing anybody a favor. It was just like, hey, you make money out of them.
Put
another $5 on it. It's okay. And I called the guy, and he said, isn't there any cab drivers there? And I said, yeah, there was one guy. He said your name. But, you know, and he said, yeah, if he says my name, come with him. And I go there, I give this guy the phone, and he said his name, Kakajan. It means, yeah, brother, you know, they knew each other. And I was like, okay, put my bag in there, and they take me to this safe house. And I come in there, and I'm just like, you know, hey, how you doing? He talks to me. He's like, welcome home. You know, you're doing a good thing. And this dude is sitting there with like YPG flags everywhere, and he had like 2 AKs on the wall. And I'm just like, okay. And he's like, how many languages do you speak? And I was like, I speak Kurdish, Arabic, Swedish, English, a little bit German. And he's like, oh, really? I was like, yeah. And that was my biggest mistake of everything. Telling this guy about the languages I knew. That was my biggest mistake. I still regret it till this day. Because I got pulled into some weird situations where people who didn't know Kurdish were doing some dumb shit, and I had to like travel for 5 hours to translate for 5 minutes, and then be stuck at some desert house for a week just to wait for a car to go back to my base and sit there and wait for a month to go somewhere. So I mean, translation, you know, helped me a lot, but it kind of in the beginning sent me to places I didn't want to be, you know, because I was there primarily to be with my people. I had no plans of being around other people, American, Swedish, French, because I didn't know anything about military. I didn't know, you know, experiences and what you can learn from people. I just thought, hey, you know, YPG is going to sort me out. I didn't know what a plate was. I was like, hey, I don't care. Shit, 2 grenades. I can roll with 2 grenades, but it's just come into this house, and he talks to me, and he says, yeah, okay, you know, he comes, he says, bring your bag, let me see your phone, and he just checks them a little bit, you know, he takes your passport, takes some pictures on it. And me, I had 100%, I trusted this guy straight up, like I knew him for like 100 years. I was like, yeah, I trust this guy. I have no doubt he's going to send me wherever I'm going to go. Just because he was speaking the Kurdish I knew. And for me not being anywhere close to Kurdistan or Kurdish people like this, I just kind of did a mistake there maybe. I had just dropped everything and was like, hey, this is my people. I'm Kurdish. Nobody's going to do me any harm because they're fighting ISIS. These are fighting ISIS. We're all doing the same thing here. Why would they put me in trouble? I'm just a guy that, you know, answered my people's call. I'm going to come back home. And he takes me to this room, and I see another guy laying there, And he just straight up jumps up and is like, "Oh man, I'm so happy to see someone in here." And I was like, "Oh, you're American?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, hey man, my name is this," and he gave me this name because I told him about my uncle, and of course he went and did his research to make sure I wasn't some spy or some Turkish agent or whatever. And he kind of found out everything. He had everything, where my uncle died. He knew everything. So he told me, I know your uncle's name was Firat. I'm going to give you the name now, Firat. So if you meet any other foreigners, because obviously he knew the dude was there, he said, tell him this is your name. I'm going to hold your passport so he doesn't look at it while you're sleeping. Who knows? So once you're going to go, I'm going to give it to you in your hands. I was like, okay. So this guy, this American guy, had been in this house for 2 weeks, and they hadn't let him go out and do anything because, it's kind of like create targets and stuff. So it's a security issue. And once you get to Suli, you have like a 30-day visa. So they have to send you towards the border before these 30 days. And by those 18 days or something, no new recruit had come or was planned except me. So they were waiting for me to send me and him and one reporter and some weird dude. I don't know. He was just, I don't know. He never said his name or nothing. He just sat along. He was super sketchy. He sat at the front. He was definitely a Westerner, but he was not one of us like internationalists, stuff like that. He was very short. He came with water and food sometimes, but I was very quiet because I've never seen Kurdistan. I've never seen the mountains, the cities, so my mind was going 100%, whatever I saw, So me and this guy started talking, and he was from Texas. He was some linguistic guy in the Air Force, apparently. And he was very smart. He was a smart guy. He didn't want to go to battle. He wanted to do other stuff. But that night, I was just there for like 4 or 5 hours, and this fucking car comes. And it's like, yo, so we're going to go toward the border now?
Wow.
Get ready. Yeah, and I was like, what? I just been like on flights and layovers for like 23 hours, and I come here 3 hours, 4 hours, and now straight to Syria. I mean, 2 days before this, I was literally smoking cigarettes with my friends and drinking beers, just standing where we grew up, and nobody knew where I was going, and I was like buying beers for everyone, just having these moments, I mean, it was just so surreal, and we took this car drive. I remember it was like, it was so epic, the mountains, and the roads, the rivers. I couldn't sleep. Everybody was sleeping. I didn't sleep. So we drove.
Why couldn't you sleep, Firat?
Because I wanted to look at everything. I wanted to experience. I've never seen anything outside Sweden like that. I've seen countries that look like Sweden and they look boring as hell. We don't have mountains like that. We don't have stuff like that. We just have buildings like the Dutch build or the French build. I mean, it's beautiful, yeah. But for me, this is my land. Every rock meant something for me. So we drove to a city called Duhok. And this is so sketchy because I don't know. This was a time where all Kurds were helping everybody. So we went to these two Peshmerga guys, okay, and they gave us Peshmerga uniforms and put us on the back of the car, and they continued driving towards some like frontline checkpoints and did some U-turn and drove through the border and just like straight up out on the desert. And this was like a 6-hour drive after the 4-hour drive or whatever it was to Duhok. And these guys just stopped. I could just see like some mud houses far away from the distance. And I think it was during October. Yeah, it was during October, so it wasn't boiling hot, but it could get a little bit chilly if it was dark, I remember. And they just, okay, this is where we're going. And they stopped like by this little bush and rock, where you could clearly see this is where they turn. This is the dead end for them. This is the border they leave, because you could see their marks. They've been there several times. And these guys I were with was like, hey, Firat, can you ask them where they're going? Because none of them were speaking Kurdish. And that weird guy went back with the car. Yeah, I'm just gonna put that out there. This weird guy went back with the car. He didn't even jump out, you know. So they leave us there. They take their uniforms and they leave us there. They make this phone call, and they're like calling me, hey Kurdish guy, and I go there and they're like, their dialect is really hard. The South Kurdistan dialect. Sorani. It's pretty hard for me when they speak. They speak really fast, so I can't understand it properly. At least by then I couldn't. So whatever he said, I was like, okay. So I said to him, like in my dialect, I'm gonna stay here. He said, yes, stay here, and that was all for me. I was like, okay. And this dude drives off, and nobody shows up for like half an hour.
Wait, Firat. So let me get this straight. So you travel by car. The border you're talking about is Iraq into Syria.
Yeah,
you're left at like a bush and a rock. It's you and it's some dude from Texas who you met like 5 hours ago, or 10 hours ago.
And two reporters.
A reporter?
Yeah, a cameraman and a reporter. And they're all from North America, okay? One guy was like Australian and the other two guys were American. And I mean, it was desert. It wasn't like it was just bush. You could literally see this is the desert, okay? You could, as far as your eye go, you see desert, you see some hilltops. And this guy just leaves. And nobody shows up like in half an hour. And we kind of start panicking, you know. And one of these guys, the linguistic guy, he just, I'm going to start walking. We were like, what? Where the fuck are you going, bro? Chill out. You see how big the desert is? Because one of the reporters, he was an ex-Marine. He was an ex-soldier. He was actually in like Operation Iraqi Freedom. This dude knew what he was talking about. He said, listen, I see cars from the distance. It will take them a while to get here. Chill out. So we saw Hilux coming after like 35 minutes. I remember I was keeping track of the time. And this car's coming, you know, and just throws up. You could see this one guy with a big ass mustache. The other guy who was like pretty young, like, you know, no beard, nothing, you know. You could clearly see the Morpat, you know, the Chinese Morpat camo they had on. And I was like, okay. I started like relaxing a little bit. And they were like, who of you speak Kurdish? Because he had told them, you know, the guy that dropped us off. He said, you don't have to worry. There's a guy here. He's one of you. He speaks exactly like you. He's like, who is the Kurdish guy? And I said, it's me. I'm a Kurdish guy. He said, okay, what's your name? And I said, Firat. He said, okay, Firat, welcome to Rojava. And I was like, what?
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I told the guy.
What year Firat, what year is this?
This is 2015. Yeah, I would never forget it.
Let me pull this map up
happy.
while you're talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me pull up this map, right?
So I told the American guys too. I was like, well, guys, he says in a Kurdish way, they say, Un bekhair haten. It means you are coming with goodwill. Or, you know, it's hard to translate. It's a Kurdish thing. And I told the other guys, just the guys we're in Syria. He said, welcome to Rojava. This is the guys. So it was amazing, you know. And I remember sitting in the car with them, and they were asking me questions like, hey, you Kurdish? Well, what are you doing here with these foreigners? And, you know, and blah, blah, blah. Who sent you? And then because once you talk to one commander, he will give you an order on a note where he like tapes it and stuff like that, because, you know, these people don't trust phones. So they will give you a note, and they will say, listen, this note you will give to the next commander. And if you drop this note, you will be forced to come back here and explain it, or they will literally put you in jail, because you can't prove that you lost the note. Maybe you gave it to someone. So it's a big security thing for them, this little note. And that note for me said, use this guy as a translator, send him to the International Academy, train him, and send him out.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, and I didn't know that, so we came to this base like during the night. It was dark, and I remember just like it was powerful, bro. Seeing and the Syrian Democratic flag by then wasn't even created. It was strictly YPG and YPJ. I was like so filled of like relief. I could like I didn't even know what to say. Like I was just super happy. They were like wanted to speak with me. Oh, you like us? Where you from? Oh, what are you talking about? Your village is like 2 hours away from here. And I was like, yeah,
Wow.
I know, but don't tell them. And they were like instantly, they asked me, have you visited them? And I said, no, I came here first. And they were like, well, okay, we will drive you tomorrow. And I said, no, I want to do this first, and then I will go visit my family. And when you say that to them, it means a lot because they have all left their families. They don't visit their families. They don't do anything. That's what they do. They will fight and take orders either till they die or they get injured, you know? So me just coming there straight from a, spoiled life here and saying, no, I want to be here. I want to be with you. I'm not going anywhere. I haven't seen them for 25 years, 27 years. Why would I go now? I can wait a couple of months. I need to learn. So I was more or less just straight up. They sent me in, and they were like so many people and so much I was seeing in this base. I was seeing like hundreds of pictures of dead fighters, men and women. And I remember constantly I was like looking through every picture to see if my uncle was on any of these pictures, because I also had it in the back of my head that I'm gonna find out what happened to my uncle. I want to know what happened to him. I want to know that two guys or one guy that survived. I need to know which base he got sent out from, because I have to do this for my mom and my family, because no one knows anything. So I had that stuff in my back of my head all the time as well. And this guy comes to me
Firat,
and says, yeah.
Can I pause you for just a sec? I
course.
feel like that's really important. I think we as Americans take it for granted that like I can go with my dad to the Vietnam War Memorial where they've got all the names of the people who passed away, and we can go and stand there, total security, and see the person's name and talk about them. This is kind of like almost a memorial for your people that you're seeing for the first time. And like in your mind, it's how am I going to find my uncle?
Can you see me? I got a warning sign about, okay. Yeah, I mean, and he died 2014, where they didn't have as much, they take your name before you go anywhere, as they do now. And I was feeling like I don't even have a place to tell my parents where he's buried, At least show me which base he belonged to, because they took his phone. They're local. They are inside these telegram it's called, groups with ISIS fighters where they're sharing videos. I've seen more than 15 or 10 YPG guys actually showing me their friends on ISIS videos. It's not a rare thing in Syria. It's not a rare thing. Like every time we saw videos, we would see 3 or 4 YPG or SDF guys we actually fucking do, So
who were killed? Is that what you're saying, or captured?
Yeah, once you get like, there's a lot of havals that because they would rather capture you, of course, than kill you, and sometimes they would ambush our forces and they will capture like 10, 15 of them. And when they do that, they do a video. And what we know about the videos, they're gonna put you in the orange jumpsuit, okay? But these dudes get creative. They do their stuff. So we know that. It could be me, it could be you someday, So we know these videos, when we watch them, it's not like we watch them because we are looking for people that have disappeared. That happens a lot, at least for me. When I know, I look at least back now it's different. Back then when we were on the ground, we were literally, every time we had internet or went to Wi-Fi, we would look through these videos and see if we could see something, So this thing with my uncle was maybe something that I could go back home and said I gave closure to my family while being a piece of shit and lying to them. Maybe, you know, I mean, in my head, it was like, you know, it's just weird, man. You know,
It would make up for it. Yeah.
It's you do some weird stuff, and you think about the weirdest shit. Like you're trying to justify, you know. And I keep telling people, you do the most unselfish thing while you're doing the selfish thing ever. You're leaving everyone, and you're lying to them as well. Yeah. So, it's kind of like a moral. It changes you. Like it changes you, because that's a decision that you can't take lightly. You can't go through with it halfway. Maybe, okay, I could have turned around in Bulgaria, you know. Maybe I could have, like, at the airport tell my mom, well, I'm going to Syria. Okay, I'm not going to do this. I could have just checked it out. Or maybe I could have gone to Iraq and said, no, I don't want to fight. I want to work with media, and I want to do this. I want to work as a translator. I can't wear military clothes, you know. But I didn't. I straight up said, I'm here to fight. I'm here to defend my people. And I kept saying that to every commander that ever spoke to me. That night when we came to that place, he said, where I'm going to send you now is a place for Westerners. And, you know, considering you have been in Sweden your whole life, it would make it a little bit easier for you if you go there and acclimate, you know, come into the tradition. Because they teach them that, you know, culture, tradition, you know, and you know, things you can do and not do. And, you know, I need that too. You know what I mean? I need language lessons as well. Man, shit, I need it all. So I was all up for it. And they sent me to a place in the middle of the night, and I saw Jeff. I saw my man Jeff. He was the first guy. Yeah, he was the first guy I saw driving up to that base. He was standing there smoking cigarettes, and I didn't even know that guy would be like my battle buddy. Like from that day till today, that's the guy I talk to every day, and it was just so weird. And they looked at me, and he was standing there, and you know, I was the old B-boy. I wasn't wearing jeans and a you know, flannel shirt. No, I was wearing like hoodies, Nike hoodies, and Nike skate shoes, and you know, beanie hats and stuff. So it was like these guys had just woken up, and I sat in this car, and we came to their base. They had like this gate, and there was this Westerner standing at the gate. And I remember I was just being quiet, going in there, and they all know that there's new guys coming, so they prepare, you know, they want to welcome you. They stand there. When your car comes, everybody says, you know, hey, what's up? This is my name. This is my name. And I have never in my life seen so many people from so many different countries. It was crazy. It was U.S., Canada, Spain, Greece, U.S., Sweden, France, Norway, North America, even Africa, China. I was like, holy shit, Albania, Serbia, and I was like, wow, it was just crazy. So they threw me in with Jeff's group. This is my dude, Jeff's group. And this dude is from Detroit. And me and him, we instantly clicked. Like, we clicked instantly. And he was like, man, you speak really good English, man. I was like, yeah, you know, thank you. You know, I watch a lot of American movies. I'm a breakdancer and stuff like that. So it's like American culture is like, it's hip hop. It's everything for us. So that's what we learn. So we got to learn English. And also in Sweden, you have to know English or you don't pass school. You can't graduate if you don't learn English. It's a second language here. So I mean, already there I was set. I could understand.
Is Jeff just like a white dude from Detroit? Does he have like a Kurdish background or what?
No, he was literally the only white dude in Detroit where he lived.
The whitest dude. Whitest dude in that area.
Yeah, until he opens his mouth though. Then he doesn't sound like a white dude. But Jeff is one solid guy. He ex-army guy. He did time in Afghanistan. He straight up told me, hey, what do you know about military? And I told him, bro, I don't know shit, because I was teaching them Kurdish. I could translate for them people. I can get their point of view and their voice across to this commander where they couldn't fucking get. They needed stuff and they couldn't. So when I came, I became kind of like the bridge between all that as well. So Now people could actually tell me, listen, I need this, this, and this. Can you please tell him? So I went there and I translated. So as they helped me so much, I helped them. We made it easier for each other. And during this time in this place, you do language lessons. You do about history about YPG, Kurdish, Kurdistan, the struggle. You do you learn the geography of Rojava, current where this is where the enemy is. This is the different units. You learn about the different weapon systems that are usually mostly Russian. You learn to dismantle, clean your gun. You do your guard duty 2 times a day with a mag with no bullets in it. So you do go there with a black rifle. I didn't understand it by then. I remember walking up to this commander and I was like, hey, Haval, why don't I have bullets in my weapon? Why am I standing there at 2 a.m. and you keep telling me that I have to stand there because there is enemy behind the hills? What am I supposed to do with this weapon? Am I supposed to throw the mag at him? And he just dead serious looks at him and he says, how about Firat? They don't know you don't have bullets. I was like, what? So, it was just, the funniest things come out of this weirdest situation.
Yep.
And he was just fucking with us. It was a safe area, but I knew he's preparing us, and today I respect the shit out of it because nobody likes anybody that falls asleep during his guard duty or anything. I didn't know the seriousness of it when I was doing, basic training or whatever, because then you're just grumpy. Somebody tells you to go stand in the middle of the night of a place you haven't even seen a bullet. So you don't know there's danger, So we did all these lessons, and the training was supposed to be a month or something. And after 10 days, there's a group coming in from the front. And these guys, were dirty as fuck. They were, you could see these guys, okay, they've been here a while, at least 5-6 months. They've been to 2 operations, and I could clearly recognize some of them from the videos online and stuff. And one of them was my dude, Haval Azab, the guy who was ex-Marine and stuff like that. And they were doing some crazy shit. They were going from car to car, just going out on different groups. And back then they didn't have so much control of these Western units because they just were happy to see them, and that fighting wasn't so intense and in one place for a very long time. It was skirmishes out in the villages. It was mines, and it was maybe, some areas where some dudes made an ambush, but it wasn't after, Tishreen and Jarablus. So these guys had been driving around, and they came there and they were washing their stuff, and they came into our room, and I was sitting there and I was just seeing them just pulling up this loot, bunch of stuff with this ISIS logos on it. They had headbands, beanies, fucking baby clothes with ISIS logos on them, rings, guns, MP5s, everything. I was and all of this stuff had the ISIS logo on it, and I was wow, I've never seen any. And I was just sitting there and they were you need anything? I was what do I need? And he's you don't have anything? And they started putting together IFACs for me, giving me extra multi-tools they had, just straight up, you need anything else, take this rack, you will use this rack, don't use YPGs, they're old, 4 mags will drop. And they just told me all these small things. And actually I could literally sit there now and see their bullets and, the mags and clean them, because in the training they didn't give us any bullets. So now I can actually see how the bullets look the size of them, and after 2 days they've been there, the commander calls me into his office, and I come in there and I see Haval Azad. He sits there, and Haval Azad is a pretty serious guy, and he's pretty, straight back, from Michigan, fucking ex-Marine, crazy guy. I was scared of him the first time I saw him. Like, I was like, yo, that dude probably don't want any of my shit. You know, I'm just going to stand here. If he needs me, I'm going to just help him, you know. And they sit there and they're like, oh, Firat, sit down, man, you know, sit down. So they're all sitting there, like, when I came into the room, and they were, everybody's looking at me, like, and they're everybody's sitting on the ground, you know. You don't have tables and furniture in there. They have, like, this floor furniture, you know, mattresses, you know. So everybody's sitting on the ground. He's like, sit down. I was like, okay, I sit down. And he's like, oh, about Firat, your training has gone well. You know, you have some weapon systems left to learn, but that won't be an issue. You know, these guys will teach you everything and blah, blah, blah. And he keeps talking about these plans. And I stopped him. I was like, Haval, like, I don't understand. Like, I've just been here 2 weeks. Like, I have like 2 more weeks in my training. And he told me, he said, you jumped in with a group that's already did 2 weeks. And all they have done is ideology and lessons or language lessons. And he told me, he said, you don't need language lessons as much as they do. And ideology, you can speak to whoever you want out there and learn it. So this commander was really understanding in a way. He knew that the importance of some people. He said, okay, maybe you don't need an ideology, but we need them out there fast. So he was a good guy, that commander. So he said, your go and prepare. You're leaving with this group. They're leaving to the front. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, they're going to go to the front like tomorrow. You're going to go to a unit and you need to go with them because these guys need you, you know, translator. They're a very active group. They get sent to the front and they fight a lot. And I was, you know, because also one thing I had in my head when I got there was I will obey orders. Like, it's one thing I won't do is disobey orders, because I don't want to be put with people that is not Kurdish, because they were whining all the time about stuff. So after I saw a lot of that, I was like, I'm not gonna, you know, disobey orders. I'm just gonna do whatever he says, because I don't know anything about any other option as well. So I don't know. I haven't been anywhere. So I was just like, okay. And I've been there for like a couple of days, a week so with these guys, and you know, we kind of clicked. We were chilling in the same room, and they were teaching me stuff, you know, holding guns, you know, don't do that. That's not so good. Do this, bro. You know, they were fixing my rig for me, and like, oh, are you left-handed, right-handed? I'm right-handed. Okay, then you need to put your max like this. And it was all new for me, you know. And it was shit. It was so interesting. I was I want to learn everything, you know. And after like 5 days something with them there, and I've been there for 2 weeks. I was gonna go out with them, and I prepared. I had all my shit done, and they gave me like this fresh uniform, more pad, and you know, go in there, do this, do that. You know, here's 2 grenades and shit like that. I mean, damn, I'm holding 2 nades. I've never held 2 Russian nades before. It was just surreal, because we did throw grenades in training, but he literally stood there and was like, hold this, pull this, now throw it. And then he's like, okay, next. It was literally just one grenade I threw. You know how many bullets I shot in basic training with the AK? 9. I shot 9.
God.
Everybody that's military, just let that sink in. This is with my basic training. I've never in my life held a rifle. I've held a pistol before, sure, but I've never held a rifle. Yeah, an air rifle maybe, but you know, you do 3 shots prone, 3 shots kneeling, 3 shots standing. That's it. That's all I did.
That's it.
They didn't have the resources by then. They didn't have the bullets.
Yeah.
So every Westerner that's training, and it was literally 30 of them, is gonna have a mag each. It was not possible. So that was all the gun training I had. I didn't know what CQB was. I didn't know anything. I never shot anything with a scope. Like I didn't come that long in the training. They just sent me out. But when the morning came and we all like were preparing, it felt good. I mean, I was excited, you know. That's what I was there for, and I kind of knew that okay, this is the guys I'm gonna stick with because one of them he was pretty old. He was like 55 or something, I think. His name is Haval Rubar, and he was actually in the British Armed Forces as a Green Jacket. I mean, come on, this dude was in the Falklands. Holy shit, he was. I mean, we had a Norwegian military nurse. We had an ex-marine. We had a British guy that was just he was in a green jacket, so I think you called him. And then there was it was me, Jeff, and our friend Shoresh that were from Canada. And me and my friends from Canada were zero. We had no experience in nothing. And he was also a Kurd like me that came. He'd never been in Kurdistan. He'd just been in Canada. He was doing exactly the same thing as me, but he hadn't lost any relatives. He just had the same cause, same thing as me. So we all just instantly clicked. And I got sent out before Jeff and Shoresh, and me, Hawal Azad, and all of those guys. We got sent to a unit in the outskirts of like Tel Tamer, like some village by Abdulaziz Mountain. And I mean, at that time, ISIS were on the other side of the mountain as well. You could see tracers on the hilltops on night and stuff. But we came there and it was just strictly Kurds. We were the only like Westerners there, and it was so much. And I was put to work. I had to explain everything.
Translating.
Oh my God. I had to, holy shit. I mean, it was much. It was so much, and it was too much because some of the commanders there are from northern Kurdistan, in the Kurdish Turkestan part there, and they use some Turkish words in their Kurdish, and we in Rojava sometimes we say some Arabic words in our Kurdish, so I couldn't even fully understand what they were saying sometimes. So I was like, what? Excuse me? So it was so much sometimes when they were like trying to be super serious. And I remember the first thing Haval Azad did, when we like put our bags in there, he said, Firat, come with me. I said, okay. He took me to the commander and he said, tell him we need to go to the armory. I'm gonna pick a weapon for you. I'm not gonna let them give you a shitty Chinese AK. And I was like, okay, because I like instantly from there I knew this guy is gonna take care of me, because not only because he wanna like keep me alive, no, because he wants the people around him to be able to actually, not be out of the fight, not they have malfunctions with their shit. And I learned from that. And you go with your team needs to function. I mean, it doesn't work without it. And he just looked after me, man. He just went into the armory, got me this sweet ass Hungarian AK. He started like looking at the parts, changing some for me, and this is how you do this part, you can change this, this is how you can give me tips that others didn't. You can use, DW40 on this. It was just new, because once we got out of that base, that place where there was so many Westerners, all these guys kind of just like relaxed, and they're like relaxed because they've been to war before. These dudes knew. They knew we're gonna dig in and we're gonna be waiting a while. It could take a while, and I didn't. I on every fire guard I had at night, I thought somebody's gonna shoot me, like for real. Like once we were outside that base and I saw the tracers on the hilltop and shit, and I can hear the radios, the Arabic, they were speaking. You could see during the day, the EOD guys were clearing the road. They were always finding mines. There were always someone driving on an IED. So it wasn't safe. And this place were a house next to the M4 road, actually. And all the villages there were evacuated because 80% of them were actually with ISIS. It was local ISIS fighters that lived there, and we used to train like PJ, like we used to take our people and we used to go to the areas of these villages that were cleared, and we used to train. So Hawal Azad used to take me and these guys, he used to, like, every 2 days, he used to take me and say, okay, we're going to train. And he used to take me, like, to this left houses and, like, teach me how to do, CQB and how I can, like, make myself smaller, You can lower yourself here. You don't have to stand up in this corner, You can change. You don't have to change arms. You can just change shoulder. It was just, like, so much. I was learning and learning. And I remember this special incident where it wasn't my first contact, but it was the first real situation, because we weren't at an active front line, because the active front line was much further ahead, where they dropped the J dams and where everybody's fighting. It wasn't where we were. But one of the YPG guards, because there's two compounds, and the YPJ has their own compound, and you don't go there. Like, you just don't go to the female and women's house. Like, they will kill you.
Yeah, just quickly, Firat, you might have to just quickly, YPJ versus YPG.
So YPG is us. It's the People's Protection Unit. It's an all-male unit of Rojava, and YPG is the People's Protection Unit, but it's our female forces. We have
YPJ.
The YPJ, yes, yeah. YPJ is the female forces, and they do have more power than we do, actually, to be honest, and they're pretty scary, and their privacy is like it's a major security thing. Like, you cannot go to their places if you're not invited, and that's something they had chosen, not us. So at this particular night, I was doing my guard after Azad, and I remember I heard him, the guy that writes the guard list. I could hear him. He said, no, our Kurdish friend is going to do the next so he can rest. He said something like that. So I heard him, and I just went up. I started preparing, and I go and I come down and I see PJ, like, Hawal Azad. He's coming down, and he's like, yeah, you're going to do guard, stand here, whatever. And we've been doing that for like a week or so, 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, I'm like, aren't they supposed to be like just female YPJ guard, over there? And he's like, yeah. And she wasn't there. So I went down, because there's this one guy we call it the Subai. The Subai is the guy that is in charge of waking people and writing the list. He's the guy who speaks to the commander. He has the comms, he has the iPads and everything. So I go to him, and my friend Hawal Azad, he stayed. He didn't go to the room. He's like, what? And I went to him. I said, our female friend is not on her guard. We don't see her flashlight when we're trying to see if she's okay. And he starts calling the commander, and apparently she had seen someone sneak outside our compound into some of these places where we were training at. And she got so scared, she just ran down from the roof and went into her commander, like, and they were all sleeping. So it took a while for her to even wake somebody up, but she didn't tell anyone on the comms. She just got so scared. So, and when he said, I saw him, he's like, what? So he got super serious, the commander, and he said, Hawal, prepare yourself. Yeah, I think we have enemies close. And I told Hawal Azad, I said, bro, the female friend, she left her guard duty. She said someone on the other side. He had no hesitation. Okay, let's go. Be ready. Now, move fast. And I was like, okay. And I couldn't even think. I didn't even think. And he was walking head in front of me, and he had, a shirt light on him, and he was like doing it whenever he's like, feel it's right. And we come up to this house where, like, I'm just going like behind him, trying to like not frag him and like do whatever he's trying to teach me, taught me before. And I was stressed, man. I mean, that was the first serious where somebody actually told me, bring your weapon. We need to clear this place. And I just followed him. I mean, it just came so natural. I didn't think. I just followed him. Like, I just went in. Okay, I just went with him, and I just followed him. I didn't ask him, hey, but wait, shouldn't we do this? Shouldn't we do that? I just saw him moving, and I was like, shit, I gotta move with him. Like, I can't stop. Because he kept putting it into my head that if he's the front man and people are behind him, he won't stop and look back and see if you did. You need to follow. If we are moving together, you need to follow me. So I knew as long as I'm with this guy, we're gonna do damage. We're gonna either do whatever we're gonna do, or we're gonna die together. Like, that was like, I knew that I trusted him so much. I trust him so much. I didn't even think. I just followed him. But we cleared all these 2-3 houses, like, and we didn't find anything because people came and reinforcements came. No, it was nothing. And and we had to have like this big meeting after, because why she left her post and stuff. But there was nobody there, nothing. But that was like not first contact, but like first holy shit moment. Like, and here I am, like, following this guy. Yeah, I've known this guy for 2 weeks, and I'm like, yeah, I trust this guy. I'll die with him. It's just that the
I think Marines everywhere are smiling right now. Like, that's exactly how they want to go in and know somebody's got their back. Love hearing that. That's great. So I know you said that it takes you like 2 or 3 months to get to the front.
Mm.
So you have this scare.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the first time you're in contact, like at the front, or when you get there and you're real close to the front.
It wasn't long after this incident that I just told you about, because now we were actually at a transit. We were doing guard shifts for the 2 days straight on the front line, like that, exactly where people go up the Abdulaziz mountain. And we were sitting there and not sleeping. We would go there for 48 hours and just do constant guard shifts, 6 people, 8 people, without going back to the front. So it was 10 grown-ass men spooning each other at night with one blanket. Okay, it was some hard shit. Yeah, and that was actually my first time actually seeing an enemy corpse. I've never seen an enemy corpse before. And I've just heard about them and seen, traces, from the buildings and stuff. And right before we're gonna go, we actually switched bases because another unit came and relieved us, and we went to this old Christian village. That's name is Tel Nasri, and it was in Tel Tamer as well. And this village means a lot to us as well, and for me as well too. I have no like blood connection there, but just when you walk there and you see the devastation of what ISIS did, they kidnapped like 200-300 girls to Raqqa, and they killed all the men. You could literally see on the walls where they had like executed people on like waist level, you could see that they had people kneeling, and you could see corpses everywhere. And the last thing they tried to do before they left was to destroy the church. And the current commander by then was a Muslim woman, from what I heard, and she said to all the forces, like, we cannot let them destroy this church. The church became a symbol of this fight in that particular time. And for me to be just walking there through this chaos, and seeing the church all destroyed, but the cross is like remaining, and just seeing people's, family pictures, and next to it you see like some piece of shit ISIS, Kevlar, and it's just now it's real traces of that. Like, it just became more and more and more, because where we were before that, at that village, you could see the destruction, but they already cleaned out everything else, but they're not going to clean those places. It was literally suicide belts everywhere. You could see like 80 millimeter grenades just stuck on the ground, not even blowing up. It was a weird place, and it was like also the first place I saw remains of ISIS, like graffiti in different languages, Russian, English, and Arabic, Kurdish. So I mean, it meant a lot to us to be there, and we were actually not even there for a long time. We ended up hearing that our unit is going to be sent out to this operation for the liberation of Shadadi city. And this was 2016, I think, yeah. 2016 it was, yeah. And, I mean, our local friends were, like, super excited, and they were preparing. Okay, here we go. You get me? So, like, I could see everybody was preparing. The armory guy was giving people, like, ammunition, fresh grenades. Everybody was preparing. You could feel it, like, it's about to happen, And then we get called in for a big morale party. That's how we call it, a morale booster. It's a place and a time where everybody meets the last time before we go out on an operation. And it's all the units. It's EOD, heavy weapons, recon, sniper, whatever. All of them are there. They're high commanders, and they bring you food and, sweets and whatever, just having fun. And we all went there, and you listen to this speech by this big commander, and, he says whatever, you can do whatever, and we went back to base, and the day after we were set to go with this big-ass convoy of like 100, 200 cars, just driving through these mountain areas, and you can clearly hear like a fucking Apache helicopters and jets and people playing music, and they were happy, and we.
This is you like in a convoy going to the front.
Yeah. This is us. I have it all on film, man. That's the funny part. I filmed all this. Everything I'm saying, I have it all on film. Yeah. So it's like, it's just sitting there, man, and everybody's just happy, like, oh, for us, we're going to the front, and it's just like, I'm seriously like happy. It's not some fake stuff because he's smiling and I'm stressed inside. No, I was seriously happy. Like, finally, we are going to the front, and we drive in this convoy to the city of Shadadi, and we ended up like in the back part of the convoy. So, by that time they frog leap. So first, and then second, and then last, and vice versa. So we ended up being like the initial attack. We were one of the last groups. So we were just doing like random guard duties at the beginning, but we were inside this freaking city, and now it was fucking real. I mean, we were doing patrols, we were clearing houses, and I mean, it was no joke anymore. Everybody was serious, and and we could hear it all the time. I mean, you could hear the fighting all the time, and A-10s, the gunships. I mean, it was. I didn't sleep, man. I was just like, wow. I mean, what is going on? And I was scared, but at the same time, I was like, I felt like I'm in the right place. It just felt so right. I wore my uniform with so much pride and my patch. I just felt like this is so me. I found myself like, this is who I am. I'm here with my people, and for people that have left their families and their countries, they left work and freedom and to come here and help my people. How can I not want to be here? And we was doing this probably 1-2 times, and also because of the translation, they were keeping me behind. They didn't send me out on them because we do operations during the night. Okay, we were given a coordinate. You're gonna take this coordinate. I don't care what's between or what's on the side. you're gonna take that coordinate and you're gonna stay there till the next unit comes. And this is done by all the guys at the same time. They move at the same time. It's not like you go first. So it's like you gotta keep up with the line, the offensive line. And this was also backed by the coalition as well. So they were out with their drones and, their planes. Okay, guys, we bombed the shit out of this place. Just move in. And move in, and you can't win a war with air. And I mean, so it was so much fighting going on all the time. So it felt like I was in it, but not,
Oh, because you could see it all.
Yeah, I was in this. We were in the city. Yeah, we were in the city. We were doing guard shifts. We were seeing some fucked up shit. I mean, dogs, eating, you know what I mean, and people, corpses everywhere. I mean, now it was like corpses everywhere. And in the city, it just became like all the laughter thing from us was gone. Like we were just dead serious 24 hours because you just kept seeing guys coming back from the first line just totally fucked up. Like no legs, no arms, and you just keep hearing sniper, 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 ID, ID, ID. That's the only thing you hear. And then the occasional V-bit. And you can hear the panic when you hear explosive car. Like there's this panic that goes on in the comms, and everybody's just don't know where it's gonna blow, and they would usually send a drone first, and that drone would fucking do the recon, and we thought it was our drone sometimes. We didn't know, because the French would come with drones and they would use them, but we didn't know, we were so deep in the city. Sometimes we didn't know, but every time we heard a drone, it was 90%. It was ISIS sending a V-bit. So that shit was constant in our head. Boom, 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 boom. This Westerner died. This German guy died. This British guy died, and it's just, and you see people destroyed, and families, women, children fighting for bread, and so I was starting.
When you were when they were trying to, as you being kind of like this precious resource as a translator, and you're seeing the guys come back from that front echelon, is there something in you that's saying, I want to be up there, I don't want to be here translating? Or were you feeling like I'm close enough right now?
Every day. It came to a point where I sometimes went to this commander and said, oh, why are you doing this to me? I'm Kurdish. Send me to a Kurdish unit. I don't want to be here. Because I knew that the commanders doesn't want a fucking political nightmare and a media nightmare as well, because sending 5 Westerners from 5 different countries and 4 of them being all ex-military dying in an ambush or an ID at the same time would be just a nightmare for them. So they would send one or two out. And who's got to go with this guy or stay with this guy? It was always me, So I was arguing with my commander a lot. I was like, I want to leave. I'm not here to be, because I got tired of translating for people of some simple shit. I mean, I'm not there to translate for you how to say sugar, bro. So I mean, but still, I was not gonna disobey orders. So I was just trying to stick around with my friends as well, because I know they needed the translation too. And if I can translate and get across what these guys are saying to my people and my countrymen, I mean, that's beneficial, because these guys were students, and they were so experienced that they were sometimes even training bigger units. So they were training other Havals. Yeah, they were training other Havals as well, not just us, because they were so experienced. That was like that too.
Can you tell me, when is the first time you do find yourself kind of let off the leash and you're moving forward?
So like after nagging so much at the commander, I remember, he saw, because he saw me. My
Yeah.
morale was low. You know, he saw me and he kept, there's this thing in Kurdish, they always ask you, how's the morale? And I kind of like stopped answering it after a time. And I told him, how was it? Like, my morale is the same as yesterday, you know, and having somebody in a bad mood, it's like they feel bad, so bad for causing it. And then all of a sudden, I was doing my night guard, and I was preparing tea and stuff. And the next guy comes, and I don't go to sleep. I kind of sit down. And this commander he had some issues with his stomach because he was fighting in Kobane, and he got shot in the stomach. And him and his friends were like stuck in a house for like 4 days before they got like saved out of there, you know, after the airstrikes and everything. So he had real issues with his stomach, so he couldn't sleep. So that night I said the same thing to him, and he said, "Oh, what, Firat, you used to always pull jokes and you know, say funny stuff about, you know, what you grew up in Sweden and stuff like that." And I said, "Yeah, but how about, you know, I'm tired. I'm not sleeping, but I'm not doing anything." I said, so I was kind of like speaking to him. He kind of like, I felt that he understood, like, okay, this is a Kurd now. This is my people too. So I told him I feel disappointed that I'm stuck here while I can understand what you're saying to your commander, that you're not going to send us out. Because they kept forgetting that I understand them, you know. So I could hear them on the comms. No. Don't send 5 foreigners out. Are you crazy? You know, send one out with this unit and let the other guys do the guard shift. And I can literally hear them say that shit sometimes about me, you know. So that night he kind of like, okay, but listen, if you want to go, you have to go alone. Like, you can't go with them. I cannot send you with all these guys. So if you're going to go on operation tomorrow, I will tell the commander, no, what do you mean? This guy's not Westerner. He's Kurdish. He's going to go with his people. And that's exactly what he did. And the day after, it was a day. The operation has gone so fast. We had this momentum, and they just said, keep going. Like, keep going. Who cares if it's day? Just keep pushing them out of to this certain area we want them. So we were six Havas, and this we were going to clear this big ass scrapyard, 6 people, and you could see this was a place where they had like their Humvees and shit they have stolen from like Syrian regime and Iraqi army, because you could see traces of like, you know, ammo bags and, you know, bigger artillery shit and stuff. But everything was bombed, and it had been hit by airstrikes. So we were supposed to clear this area, 6 people, and I mean everything Haval Azad and Jeff and all of them taught me. No, I'm not gonna like this. No, I've never seen anything like this here, because this was not where we trained. It was literally millions of places where you could hide. Like, everything was on top of everything. Everything was like steel, this, that, wood here, car there, and it was 3 aisles in this place, and it wasn't so big. It was just so messy. And they put 2. We were the guys on the right corner, and I was with another guy named Firat, a local guy as well. And in the middle, we had a female soldier and a male soldier, and on the left corner, we had 2 female soldiers from YPG. And we were getting coordinated by someone, because I didn't have the comm then. It was the other guy who was like the group leader. He had comm. So I presume we were led by a coalition drone or something. And they said, keep pushing. And I remember trying to always keep my gun up, because he kept telling me, whatever you do, always keep your gun up, because, you know, you won't have time to take it up if somebody has his gun up. So I was so focused on keeping my gun up, and this guy was literally jogging through this place. And I'm trying to tell him to slow down. I was like, bro, can you slow down, you know, in Kurdish, please slow down. We were running past so many places. And he's just like, no, keep going. And I just like took it up, and I tried like as best as I could, follow him, you know, with the gun up, look 6, you know, do what I like to do. I tried at least what I've like been trained to do there, and look around. And then all of a sudden we hear in the comms, like 12 o'clock, something, 11 o'clock, they say in Kurdish, they say like 10 after 1, they say, this is weird thing. And I can hear poof, 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 poof. They start to like shoot. When they hear the guys from the left and the middle, they're trying to push 3 of these fighters towards us. And I didn't know that. I'm just following this guy, okay? And he just tells me to keep the 6. I didn't know why he ran like that, you know, because they obviously had a plan. But I just thought we're going to clear it. So I was a little bit slow, like trying to keep up and like, hey, okay, what am I doing? Okay, I got to watch this. I got to do this. Got to watch where I fucking step. I don't want to step on that. I don't want to do this. And it was just like millions of stuff that could have gone wrong. I mean, oh my God, now thinking of it, I could have put like thousands of IEDs in that place. Nobody would have found it because it was so messy. But obviously they knew something I didn't, so I kept pushing with this guy. And the units from the left, they shot 2 of these guys, and one of them was heading like around our way, and he saw my other friend who was in front of me. His name was Firat as well, and he started shooting at us, and I got down, and that was like my first contact, and I was like, oh shit, I'm trying to look, and he comes to me and he says, listen, I'm gonna pull right, you need to check the left, and he just fucking goes. He doesn't even say, are you ready? He just leaves, and I hear the other one are shooting. So once I like go left and I look around the corner, I can see this guy's elbow, you know, while he's trying to like, he had just been up and peaked and gone down. So I can like see his elbow, and I can see that the female soldiers are shooting at him, and my friend are going the other way, and clearly this guy, he's not going anywhere. And I was just, okay, I'm going to stand there. I took cover. We got behind this big-ass steel beam, and I just stood, and I took out my gun, and the dude just popped up 1 time, 2 times, and I just ripped 2 off, boom, boom, and like he kind of fell behind his cover, and I could see the female soldier just running up, putting 2 in him in the ground, and just said, keep going. Just keep going. And I was like, okay. I didn't even get a moment to fucking reflect that I just put 2 in this fucking guy's neck. I just keep going. And I was like, okay. I kept going, and then we came to the end of this scrapyard, and there's two fucking guard towers that the regime has put there, and they told us, take those guard towers, and here's a fucking binocular, and watch in front of you. In case if somebody comes, you're going to report to the heavy weapons guys, and they're going to fucking attack it. So I didn't even have a chance to like fucking calm down and do this thing. I came up to this guardhouse tower, and I sat there with one of my local friends, and he looked at me. He's like, his name is Chekdar. Unfortunately, he died in Manbij as well. And he was actually one of the only locals that were with our group, like of Westerners, because we loved that guy. He was like the guy. He was a proper fighter. He was a Arabic guy from Aleppo that didn't even have to be with us. He could have gone with which other group he wanted. No, he came to us. He took the time to learn Kurdish. And I remember I kept telling him all the time, are you not going to like finish fighting? And he said, no, I'm going to fight until I meet my parents, you know. So this guy, we were really close to him. So I was standing on with him on the tower, and he said to me, he said, listen, I'll be right back like in 2 minutes, okay? You're safe. Like, look just in front of you, because in front of us, we could see another unit closing up on another building. So, man, it was super exciting just standing there with Knox, seeing this guy is fucking advancing forward one of the last places, you know, in Shadadi. And he just left, and I'm sitting there, and he's coming back, and he's like, hey, yo, Firat. And I was like, yeah, bro, you know, a little bit like sweaty. And by this time, I know the adrenaline had gone down. And I remember I was freezing a little bit, you know, I was cold, even though it was daylight and it was like still warm outside. And he's like, yo, take off your jacket and stuff like that. And then I took it off to dry a little bit. I put my rack on, and then he just gives me a watch. And he's like, yo, this is your watch. And I was like, what the fuck is this? He's like, yo, it's a terrorist you shot over there. I went and brought his watch for you because the commander told me to go bring his rifle. So I went there and I took his watch for you. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, bro, it's your first, bro. Here, take the watch. So I was like, that moment where I was supposed to reflect, man, poor guy, you know, is this morally right? Is this like, Felt good as hell. When he came and he's just like, I'm so proud of you, bro. Like, everybody's so proud of you, and and then all of a sudden you saw Haval and all of them coming up as well, and and it's like, it was a special moment for me there as well, because Haval Azad had this patch with a skull on it where he had from his time in the Marines, and I kept nagging on him that I wanted it, but he told me, I can't just give it to you. It was given to me. So once you go into your first and you get your first thing, I will promise you I will give that to you. And once we came to our place, we rested, he gave that to me. And I still have it. Yeah. So, I mean, all the things about, feeling bad and stuff like that, in a weird way, it became something positive, maybe, in feeling like this is the right thing for me to do. This is what I'm supposed to do, And not long,
Several of the guys I've interviewed. I was just going to say, several of these guys I've interviewed have said that that's what, if you're like a leader on the battlefield, after, somebody who's new has taken out their first enemy, like, one of the things to do is go and reassure them, like, you did what you were supposed to do. That's exactly the right thing. And it has a huge difference in morale.
Haval Azad did, and I mean, a guy I knew for 5 months, just all these guys meant more to me than people I fucking grew up with 25 years. And not long after this meeting with them, this shootout, whatever, the city was almost liberated. And it was, they had like the hospital left, and it was still some ISIS fighters inside the hospital hiding, and and our forces went in there and just fucking took them out, and the city was liberated. But I could never in my life imagine what the fuck I was gonna see when I'm just like walking around in this city. That things would. Oh my God! I mean, once it was finished and we were giving assignments to check all the open doors with two EOD guys or not. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, we were fucking out there by ourselves and looking for people and intelligence, and I was super into finding like Swedish passports, because everything we found was Westerners and foreigners. Like, it was so weird. And after the first day of just random going on houses and just looking for gear, because we needed gear, and there was a lot of military gear everywhere. It was plates everywhere. They were better equipped than us. Like, they had proper vortex scopes. They had proper AK parts. None of this Chinese fake or airsoft. No, they had real shit. So for us, going around there, finding proper knives and new clothes, Fjällräven jackets, and, I mean, it meant so much for us. So once we did that stuff, we just kept finding so much terrible shit. Like, we found a house with like 700 passports of just Westerners. Like, it was like their passports were documentations where they entered the country from. They all came from one side. They came all from Turkey, new passports. It was people from all over the world on that list. It was Sweden, Norway, US, Canada, and I mean, I was just sitting there like, wow. So I was just like, we need to like go check for more stuff, but it's crazy. I mean, I used to say to people that the videos we see online, it's not shit. I take that any day of the week. Please, shoot me in the head, chop my head off. I take that any day of the week compared to the shit we've seen them do to people in the torture houses, in the rape houses, in the fucking slave markets, the random cages with bones, and it's, I mean, it's so bad. It was so bad. Like, you could find, like, it was so open. You found like pits of people, and one special place that I usually don't say so much, but I say it anyway because I want people to know. It's fucking terrible, but I want people to know because we went through this house once, and this area where they had like 3-story houses, and I was actually with like 2 other guys, and we saw this bottom house that had like a front yard. None else had this front yard, and so we were like, "Yo, should we check that place?" But like had this weird ass gates with like some cables. So we were like, "Yo, let's fucking climb over." So we climbed over this fence, and as soon as we got over this fence, it was just military equipment everywhere. And I'm not talking about like guns and ammo. No, just like, millennium gear, like, plates, Kevlars, and stuff like that. And when you look like to the left, you could see that he didn't have a door. He just had like a big ass a carpet as a door. And I remember my friend who was American. He was actually working with Americans. He was there because we had pulled him there because of the intelligence we found, and the Havals didn't want to take it. They were like, "What are we gonna do with this shit?" And we were like, "We gotta give this to the coalition, man. This is fucking gold, you know." So we did, and this guy came with us, and we told him to back off a little bit. We said, "Let us fucking see if it's because if something happens to you, we gotta fucking get fucked." So we go in, and as soon as we pull this drape off, it was death. Like the smell of death is kind of hard to explain to someone, but I usually say it's like burns in your nose in a sweet way. You got this, I don't know how to say it. It's a sweet smell, but it's not. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, and you could instantly smell this. And as soon as I did, I just pulled back and just whoa. And everybody was like, "What?" And I told him, I was like, "Yo, guys, it's fucking smells like that from there." And I remember saying it. I said, I think we got a fucking, how do you say, a place where they just stack dead bodies because the smell was so bad. And this guy, he just took his shears and cut the drape off. So, because usually they can tape it to IEDs and shit. So he cut it off in the middle. And we just went in there, and it's terrible, man. We just saw a bunch of fucking military gear, and like it was dirty, food, and everything was super old. So in one corner, it was just filled with like boxes and boxes of condoms. And like in the other corner opposite to it, it was just filled with fucking drugs. It was like morphine, ketamine, tramadol, diazepam, and everything in liquid form. And I'm looking at this shell they have, and I'm just seeing like homemade hand grenades, and I'm just like, "Oh, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this?" I'm just like, "What is this? All this stuff?" Like, and then I hear this guy, one of our friends, he just runs out of that room, and he goes out, and he's not saying anything. You could just hear him. He's not vomiting, but he's like spitting and like cursing. These motherfuckers. And I can hear him, "Firat, don't go in there. Don't go in there." Because in some way, they looked after me, because they knew I've never been to war. So they kind of tried to look after me for these type of things. And once we got in there, I just fucking dropped my weapon. I was like, you could see like mattresses with like dried blood on them, fucking chains on the walls, and children clothes everywhere. It was like, it was terrible, man. It was you're looking at a guy that is with the coalition. This guy has been in service 20 years. This guy he fucking left the place ASAP. He was gone. And they fucking blew this house. They blew this house. I have the video of them just rigging the whole house and blew the shit out of it. They were taking little kids and fucking raping them in there, drugging them, little boys, little kids. And to be honest, after that, I kind of left the front. because the front was finished, and some fucking dudes pop up and said I'm gonna translate in some medical unit. So I even had to fucking leave because I got ordered to leave the base, and that was like my last contact myself with a fighting unit, you know. Yeah. So after that, after we saw that shit, I just wanted to talk to my family, you know. Operations were finished. City was liberated.
At what point did your family know where you were? Because I know we've like.
Yeah. They knew way before I went to the front. Actually, I told them. I told them way before. Like once I left the training academy to go with these guys, when they started writing their letters the first time and I didn't, that was when I actually called my mom. But she already knew by then. She just waited for me to call, and she just started crying instantly. But my dad never once told me to come home. He never cried, never said, come home, not one time, never. My mom said it 1,000 times, but my dad never said it one time because he knew, you know, he knew. There's no idea telling him. Yeah, he knew.
He knew.
He's been there, so he's like, no, you got to leave this guy alone. He will not come. And after that, I got transferred to a medical unit that was training local Havals, and we were gathering equipment, you know, sharing them, IFACs, you know, going to the hospitals, and, you know, learning medical stuff. So, I mean, for my first tour, I was more or less, that's what I was doing, medical stuff. And my first tour was like, I learned so much.
Damn. What an amazing first contact. Just crazy first contact.
You wait for over a year and a half, you get a first contact with someone, it's over in 5 minutes. Like, it's over, you're moving to another point, and you're like, okay, I wanted to fight for so long, and now I've done it. Like, is this what it's about? But I wasn't satisfied, you know. I wasn't, like, ready. Didn't want to go home. Because when I was with this medical unit, we got sent out to the front one time, and it just broke me, man. I was just fucked. I didn't get to fight, didn't get to do anything. I was just sitting there with Westerners and, you know, doing translation, and it was like 7 months I've been gone from home, and, you know, I think it was that's so much death, you know, and going to my families and meeting all of them, and I was like, okay, I finished my 6 months contract. I think I gotta go home now. Yeah. So
damn. Tell me about the first time when you're back in Sweden, the first time you see your family again.
The first time. It's the camera is on. Yeah. The first thing I did when I got to the airport in Sweden, I was limping because I had like injured my leg stepping on something. I remember I was in pain, and I went to 7-Eleven and I bought a pack of Marlboros and a hot dog. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, I want a pack of Marlboros red and I want a fucking hot dog. She's like, what kind of hot dog? I would just give me a hot dog. That was the first thing I did. Before anything else, I didn't call anyone. I didn't do anything. I just walked straight to this fucking 7-Eleven. I was like, I need fucking Marlboro Reds and a hot dog and a regular fucking Sprite. And I did that. I smoked my cigarette outside, and then my friend came and picked me up, and I was like, I didn't call my family either yet. I went out to this farm more or less out in the woods, and kind of like just chilled a little bit, you know, swam in the lake, and, you know, just winds down, and then going home. I mean, I cried, man, seeing my mom and everything. I didn't have so much of answers of my uncle. You know, it was really hard because I didn't get to be alone that much. I would have found out. I did find out a lot more the second time, but yeah, I actually did find out everything the second time. But I mean, you know, they were just happy to see me, and you know, super proud, you know. But I was destroyed, man. I couldn't laugh. I felt fake. You know, everybody told me that I did a good thing. I don't know, because everybody told me, "Oh, you did this, you did that." I didn't feel like that. I still don't. I still don't get it when someone tells me, "Oh, that was such an awesome." I don't get it, like, because.
Is it because you wanted to get back?
Like, yeah. So I don't actually like get it when people tell me those stuff, because I just, in my head, I'm just doing what am I supposed to do. It's my people. It's my duty. Like, if I don't do it, who would? So it was very hard for me to all of a sudden hearing people be so happy about shit. I didn't feel it like that, because everything I saw there was just fucking death. You know, I couldn't get that shit out of my head, even if I was happy. But once I left my unit, and Hawar Azad went home, Jeff went home, but 2 of our guys stayed, and 1 of them died. Jack Levi Shirley, he died in Manbij, and Chektar, our other friend, local friend, he died in Manbij as well. And I mean, even when I was home, I was still not home. I was talking to them.
I was going to say, so this is the perfect time for us to wrap up this first round, as you're sitting like so many veterans do when you come back, and it's like everybody's watching the sporting event, and you just can't see it in the same light anymore, because you've seen the other side of what people are going through in the real world, and you just feel like it's fake. And so you can just feel the need to get back there. So I think it's the perfect time to leave off. Firat, I'm so appreciative of your time, man. I'm so stoked to do this interview, and it has not disappointed at all. I look forward to round 2, my man. Our first comment comes from YouTube, from Maverick. He says, "Ray, thanks for sharing some of your stories and opening up about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. It's great to hear real people talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And thanks for everything you've given to our country." And that's in response to the second interview we did with Ray McPadden, which both of those episodes, part 1 and 2, have had really high engagement, I think, from our regular listeners in particular. And in fact, the second one has the highest average view duration for any episode we've ever done, which means people are really engaged and listening a lot longer than normal, which says a lot for Ray and his experiences, which are really impressive. So Maverick, thanks for leaving that. And Ray, thanks for the time that you spent with us. Our second comment comes from Nick, who left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And he says, "My favorite podcast for sure, very inspiring, and there's a lot to be learned here. Thanks, Ryan." And I agree with you on that, Nick. I was just thinking back, one of the interviews we did with Ryan Hendrickson, I was asking him what advice he would give to others who were thinking about going into the Special Forces pipeline. How would they prepare? And everybody's got different answers, and some people will ask this in the comments, so I wanted to hear it from someone like him who's been there and done that. And his response was really interesting. He said he'd work on his forearm strength. And he said, you got to be ready to ruck, obviously. You got to be able to run for a while. But one of the things that people underestimate is that forearm strength. And that's just like one of those little things that we pick up and learn here, in addition to the perseverance, the sacrifice, the mindset that so many of these Tier 1 operators have shared with us. So thanks for leaving that review, Nick. It means a lot to get a 5-star review there. I know it's not easy, and you have a lot of options out there. So thanks for spending some of your time with us. Stay safe, everyone.